So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Um, Apologies for some delays. Jitsi has been annoying these days, and we I use Jitsi for these streams because I tend to like open source tech and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so apologies for some little delays, but we're good. So we'll wait for some other people to start trickling in. Um, in the meantime, I should point out my ETH Dam shirt. Of course, I've been wearing it before on the thing, but just shout out to the ETH Dam people because they came over and were in town for a little while and had some pretty fun conversations. There's some pretty good people, and so yeah, just a fun little shout out to that. Um, have you been, Sylvain? How's it going?
Good. I don't know if I'm showing now. It's still displaying red in my screen. I don't know if you see me
Yeah,
at all.
little bit of pixel, but it looks like you still.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like you said, Jitsi, but I'm using the same setups as I guess the last time and everything else. So, but it's been good. Been busy at work. Obviously, I don't work in crypto, so I'd be even more busy, I guess, with all the latest news. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
that's one of those. I think that might be actually a healthy way of doing things, right? Is to have like a real job and then do crypto as a hobby, like most people do. The problem is, I do know some people who just work in crypto and then that's just their job and that's it. And for me,
Yeah.
it's like a hobby slash passion and it's work. And sometimes it's a little much. Takes a certain kind of personality for that, and maybe I have it, maybe I don't. I know it's funny because my wife works in politics and also
Oh
has
yeah.
a kind of a political hobby. Is kind of like a hobby is slash interest as well, and so sometimes it's like the work never ends. Just you're always doing stuff. You're always involved.
Hmm.
But yeah, fun stuff. Crypto is especially getting interesting these days because of some crazy like regulatory things, right?
Yeah.
And the whole Ripple thing is definitely we'll jump into that in just a moment. Let's see how many
Oh yeah,
people.
yeah. It's been. I think I don't know if most people were like
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe expecting that news, but I guess it came out of nowhere, or maybe not. Maybe because I'm not following enough and on that case specifically, but it seems like it came out like out of nowhere. But anyway, and then the markets obviously reacted to it, and now I think it's slightly down again. So it's probably going to do
Yeah,
that a little bit. There's a bit of adjustment going on right now in the markets. People are getting excited, and then other people are like, "Oh, they should appeal the decision," and so on. So, yeah, um,
yeah.
we'll
There's
have to see.
let- let's actually jump into that right now. Let's get the show started because there's a lot of nuance to that whole thing. Anyway, ready? Three, two, one, go.
For best performance, but
And hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to Digital Cash Rundown, episode 121. So there's 52 weeks in a year. And this is episode 121. That's like almost that's about, and I've skipped a couple of weeks due to like travel and things. So that's like 3 years in almost. So it's almost 3 years of doing this weekly show. Not to mention all the other ones I've done, like the Dash podcast, which is it. Next episode is like 207 or something, and those are definitely not weekly anymore. And then of course the Zcash podcast. I think I'm 7 deep on that one. Not to mention a lot of other stuff. Been in the game a long time. Anyway, if you like what you're watching, obviously hit the like button to subscribe. Leave some comments. If you're in my Discord, go to the Digital Cash Rundown channel and leave a super chat, comment or question. I'm gonna read it out on the thing. And I'm looking into an overhaul of all the other stuff I've been doing at some point in the future too. But for now, let's just dive into the Ripples thing. So, first of all, the whole Ripple case. I'm putting this thing. I know. I guess you could say Preston Byrne is an acquaintance of mine, and he put out this this thing on the ruling, on the Ripple Labs ruling throws U.S. crypto token regulation into disarray. And I should just point out, just read like a little bit of it, and then point out kind of what it means. What, legally speaking, is a cryptocurrency token sold to the public? Following Thursday's bombshell split decision, the answer appears to be that XRP is both an unlawfully sold investment contract when sold to VCs or institutional buyers, but has a perfectly lawful something else when sold anonymously via cryptocurrency exchanges or distributed to employees or by insiders. So, the thing with this case is kind of interesting. Because XRP, like Ripple, took off like a rocket as soon as this case came out, and everyone's celebrating, yeah, a huge win, all this kind of stuff. When just a few weeks before, Library had a very similar verdict, and just company shut down is done. Behind the blockchain. Although I'm streaming on Odysee right now, there's some a bit about that coming up in a little bit. But I guess the interesting part about this is the SEC in both cases, in all cases, I guess, has not tried to fully allege that an asset is a security or not. They're just alleging that they have been sold as securities, meaning investment contracts. So what they allege with the Library case is that the Library Inc., the company sold LBC tokens as an investment contract, meaning here you go, please buy my tokens, I will make them go up in value. That was kind of the thing. And that's, in my opinion, a much weaker case than, XRP with Ripple. Ripple selling their token, which used to be called Ripple until all this security stuff started to bubble around, and they changed the token name to the ticker name and tried to like do some nonsense there. But they what happened with that was they sold basically sort of interest in the company, but you don't actually get interest in the company. It's just a token, but solely operated by the company. So they kind of did that, and that is what the SEC actually ruled. They won against Ripple in that way. They won against Ripple in that they alleged that Ripple was selling unregistered illegal securities. They won. Where they did not win is they were trying to also regulate the secondary markets, which were like exchanges. They're saying, well, now if an exchange sells XRP, they could be selling illegal securities. And this is kind of a victory because the judge did not, they did not rule in that favor. And that was the whole Coinbase and Bittrex and Binance. They were trying to go after all of them for allegedly selling illegal securities, for selling things like XRP. And although the XRP, as far as I remember, wasn't alleged in any of these cases because it's got its own thing going on. So the deal with this is... Ooh, I could kind of hear myself twice here.
Yeah, sorry.
Let me kick this one out real quick. Okay. Apologies. All right. So how's that going? You can still hear me and stuff, right? Or maybe I kicked the wrong one out. No, I kicked the right one out. All right. So just to finish that thought, with basically the SEC was trying to go after exchanges in order to make them have to register as securities exchanges or get rid of them, ban them so they can get some other entity in that takes over the whole crypto trading thing. And that was the big agenda. It wasn't just going after Ripple. It was the bigger agenda, also with Library, I guess. Now, with the Library case, they did not win the secondary sales thing either. The difference was, as far as I'm aware, the XRP, the Ripple case, Ripple actually got an actual victory in that to where it ruled that it was not necessarily a sale of illegal securities. But a very similar verdict in both of these, kind of. But in this case, it touched on more and gave a little more, I would say, clarity, but actually not clarity. So let me just hit on this net. Just switch to the next thing. Cameron Winklevoss, who of course himself runs a crypto exchange, Gemini, said the sale of XRP on exchanges is not a security, which means the sales of all cryptos on exchanges are not securities, and the SEC and Gary Gensler have no jurisdiction over them. This is a watershed moment that regulates the SEC to TradFi and makes it a dinosaur regulator. Bye-bye. So that was just a little of a strong take. I don't know what you think, Sylvain. Do you agree with what Cameron's saying here?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to get the playing the camera. Sorry, but yeah, it seems like they're just jumping back on again without any. It seems like, oh, let's delist them, and now that everything is, well, somewhat good for them to make money, then they're just kind of jumping back in like without any issues. They're not wasting a second, um, and then the jurisdiction part of it. Sorry. Well, I guess we'll have to see if that remains like that. I mean, they might try to bring other regulatory framework, yet to be determined, I'm thinking. But yeah, it's just funny. Like, it's just a feeling that people are like quick jumping back in, and oh, okay, everything's fine now. No issues. So that's kind of the part I feel that's a bit weird. Coinbase jumping back in. It's like, oh, nothing happened. All is good now. We can sell it without threat of being sued or whatnot. Let's just go back right into it. And we know they want to make money because they know people will be trading XRP for the next few weeks potentially. So there's like, oh, let's not waste any time. Let's get back in.
Yeah, it is pretty insane how quickly they jumped in, especially because Coinbase is already in the process of being sued for selling illegal securities, and now they're relisting a coin that was just ruled to have been sold as an illegal security, even though the ruling kind of seemed to favor this. I think, in my opinion, what the Winklevoss twins, what all these people who are declaring this as a huge victory, who are smart, by the way. The stupid people can just declare it a victory, right? But I think the smart people that are declaring the victory know that it's not a victory yet, but they're trying to pretend like it is and push momentum towards, all this kind of stuff, because a case could very easily go the other way, or this case could be appealed and overturned at a higher level, right? Like the First Circuit Court of Appeals, all the way up to the Supreme Court if it needs to. So it's not over yet. It's not like, yay, now you can do that. However, that kind of brings in, this next point here. Let me put this up on from the tweet from Senator Loomis. So Senator Loomis said, my statement in response to the ruling says, I applaud the decision of the Southern District of New York finding that crypto assets traded in secondary markets may not be investment contracts. This is the position that Section 501 of the Loomis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act, which is an act that she's co-sponsoring, right, has taken from the beginning. The decision confirms the need for Congress to deliver a clear regulatory structure for the crypto asset industry that provides the highest level of consumer protection. We need to pass this act. So basically, this defeat for the SEC has just said, oh, well, they can't just decide secondary markets are selling security. They can't just turn them into securities exchanges. Like, that's kind of what the decision said, but didn't really provide full-on clarity. And so what supposedly, and that's also what Preston Burns said in that very first tab thingy that I had open, was what's really needed is legal clarity as far as to where this goes. And the only way to really get that clarity is through actual legislation. And so they're pushing for actual legislation. So I guess if this is a victory, it kind of pushes back the problem until something can actually be written into law.
Yeah, you're correct. It seems like even with that judgment call, they're like they need to. I don't know. It's just kind of. It's probably the same thing in Canada as well. They don't clearly define it to what that is. There's no framework. There's nothing in place, and that seems to be like the main issue when it comes to like when Dash was thrown in the pile with a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of other tokens and Polygon or whatnot. It's like they don't even know. They're just tossing a bunch of names, but they don't seem to know really what constitutes a security, what's the framework around it. And now all the exchanges are supposed to adhere to whatever rules that's in place, but who knows the rules? Nothing is clear, so it's kind of nonsense. So obviously now they need to really focus on something specific so they can address that for exchanges, for projects,
Mm-hmm.
uh, platforms that offer tokens, let's say like Odysee or
Yeah.
NFT projects. NFTs are those securities. Um, yeah, so it brings a lot of questions. So, but it's just funny that they keep on picking different cryptos and they leave that entire framework out of the discussion. They're just I don't know. It seems like a little bit weird that they're not addressing that, but they're just kind of, oh, you're a security, you're a security, you're a
Mm-hmm.
security. It looks like they're just kind of trying something to see if it's gonna stick, and then adjust from there. If
Yeah.
there's no pushback.
Absolutely. I think there's something that in law and government there has to be consensus around whatever is actually the law of the land, and unfortunately, like law and consensus are separate from regulators and bureaucrats. Regulators and bureaucrats. This current U.S. administration, in particular, is very hostile to crypto, and they're trying on purpose to, I guess, harm it any way they can. And they're kind of not because the SEC wants everything in their lawsuits. They're not just like, well, we only think that this, that. No, they want everything, everything they can do. They want to anyone they go after. They want it. They've sought to, like for example, in the library case, they've sought to destroy the company and take everything, which they kind of did. But then they also wanted to go after Odysee too, because Odysee they viewed as a successor, and they wanted to take out the Odysee company, and the judge denied that. And so then they also want, they want the token to be illegal securities. They didn't try to rule on if the token itself is a security or not across the board, probably because they didn't want to now be in the position of deciding, of providing clear framework for why something is or is not a security on the whole. But then they also wanted to go after secondary sales. I know they mentioned that in the library case as well, but they didn't get that either. So they're going after everything. And so what's happening is they're trying to do as much damage and get away with as much as they can, and then everyone else is sort of pushing back, and then we're kind of finding this middle ground where, first of all, I don't really think that anyone needs to care what the SEC thinks or what what regulators think as far as crypto assets. They just people should do what they want, right? Um, and the challenge with that though is I'm pretty sure they are going to they're going to keep on cracking down on companies that act as companies or entities that act as entities and skirt current fundraising and securities laws in order just by having a token. I think that that's what they're going to keep trying to do. And again, I personally don't think there should be like illegal or legal securities or whatever. I mean, anyone should be able to enter into any investment contract or buy any asset that they want as long as it's all voluntary and stuff, as long as there's no fraud. So that's what I think. However, I'm just saying, I think if there's a company like Library issued a ton of these tokens and sold them to fundraise for the company, and I don't think it's very surprising, especially in retrospect, that they got sued, even though the token itself is not a security. Same thing with XRP, with Ripple. Ripple pre-mined a giant amount of these tokens and just controls the entire supply of them, really, and just sold them, especially institutionally. They sold them to raise funds for the company. I think that those kinds of things will always be. I think as long as there's a government, as long as they're doing securities, as long as securities are a thing, and as long as they're doing securities enforcement of any kind, I think that those kinds of situations will always end up in getting, like sued. However, I think the bigger fear was that the cryptos themselves would be the exchange and trade of the cryptos in a decentralized way. That would start to become illegal, and it seems like that they're not getting that yet. But I don't know if they will. Do you think? Do you think the decentralized? Do you think exchanges are going to get off the hook now and not be securities exchanges and just be able to operate as crypto things? Do you think? Do you think that's the way it's going to go, or are you more pessimistic?
Yeah, well, maybe it's a bit of like what you said earlier. Potentially, they'll get off the hook now until I don't know, either an appeal for the XRP case or until maybe another fraud happens or another exchange shuts down and leaves with people's money. Like unless there's like a because we've seen like Celsius, FTX, a bunch of other ones. I think Mashinsky was arrested this week
Mm-hmm.
from Celsius. So they might be off the hook now. Maybe it's the summer. Maybe it's fine. People are going to vacation and don't want to focus on that too much. But I think eventually it will come back. And I think they'll probably enforce some kind of standards for exchanges. So I think it's probably needed at this point to start looking at decentralized options for people that haven't looked into that yet. Uh, I think they'll be going after the centralized options first, and
Mm-hmm.
then look what they can do when it comes to framework and enforcing people to pay taxes and all that stuff. Because they say pay taxes off your gains and stuff, but do they have a clear picture of everybody's like files
Mm-hmm.
and that? Like, um, in Canada, let's say I don't declare it. Well, who's actually going to verify, and what are they actually verifying? So I
Mm-hmm.
think there will be a lot more stuff happening. It's just I think a matter of time before they get back into it. So maybe the summer will be fine, but yeah.
Yeah, that's that's kind of an interesting point about like the taxes and everything there too, because I do think that there's a lot of things the government's trying to do, and it's all bad, right? So first of all, they don't want crypto to exist, but it does. People are using it as money, or we're using it as money, and they don't want to treat it legally like that. They want to treat it like as a commodity, so it doesn't compete with their crappy money. But then when it's a commodity, okay, well then the price goes up and down. It's going up. People are making money off of this thing because it's not like treated as a currency. So
Mhm.
now you have to do capital gains on every single little thing because it's kind of treated as a commodity. And then it's like, okay, but then people are trading it, but then they don't want you to be able to make money. Like if you do make money doing this, you have to be taxed. But they don't want you doing this because it's outside of the regulated exchanges. And this part with the Joker clown face thingy was pretty
Yeah.
funny. So Library, of course, the company that just got shut down by the SEC, posted this thing, said Prometheum was just awarded a special purpose broker dealer license from the SEC. This license was denied to Coinbase, Robinhood, and all other U.S. exchanges. Prometheum is the only exchange to support the SEC's Kafkaesque policy agenda. It has financial ties to key Democrats. And the picture of the Joker, like, that's really dirty. It's just like, for example, the BlackRock ETF. How many ETFs have been denied until BlackRock came around? And so I think a lot of this like selective regulation thing is also being used by the current administration to give money to power players in their sphere of influence rather than just let the winners and losers of the free market decide where they're at. Same thing with FTX, where SBF was quite, he donated so much money to that political party, and he's relatively got off easy. I mean, he's still free as far as I know. They're trying to get some charges dropped from everything, and there's even rumors they're going to restart FTX. It's all insane. So a lot of this enforcement action is related to trying to actually regulate crypto in some kind of a way, but a lot of it is just pure, for let's just be honest, like fascism. It's pure like corporatist fascism where they're trying to, marry certain private industries and government together. They're trying to combine it, which is the textbook definition of fascism. So I don't know. It's a little dark. Is
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like that in Canada or not?
I haven't followed too much of Canada's lately. I know there were more regulations recently. Um, like some of the the bigger Canadian exchanges had to adhere to like specific policies. IROC, I think.
Mm-hmm.
IROC, I think that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Coin Square, I think the like one of the biggest that was caught with their books at some point, and they since then it's probably the one that adheres to policies the most now. Like they've gone full from like regular crypto exchange to full out regulated exchange. Like there you can have a bank account with your tied to your crypto stuff, like um, to to load money into it, and it's like they're really 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 regulated now. That was probably the only way out for them, I guess, to keep doing business. So they just went full out regulations. I'm thinking that they decided to do that in order to continue.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still some couple shady ones in Canada, but I think they're going to get you know tossed out at some point. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, there's like Wealth Simple that does a bit of crypto at CoinSquare, but they're really tied to like banks almost now. So it's like you can get it's like a Quest trade where Robinhood, where you can actually buy securities and all that stuff, and you can also buy crypto off it, but it's all regulated. And um, but yeah, it's I think U.S. and Canada will be looking similar. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in that perspective.
Yeah, unfortunately. Uh, I think it's kind of crazy, but so most people in crypto right now are pretty happy uh, about the decision because it kind of puts limits on just how bad the regulation can get in the short term. But obviously, Gary Gensler and the SEC are not happy. You know what else is not happy? Bitcoin maximalists. So I just picked. Listen, you could pick any of them. They're all a little clownish, but this one, the Bitcoin therapist, who says a bunch of dumb, really dumb things on Twitter, and I like to yell at him. But he posted. Uh, he says, "If you buy XRP today, you're a sheep. Prepare to get dumped on." Remember this guy? He wants to control Bitcoin. He wants to remove proof of work. This is how scammers operate. He will never succeed. And here I hate to say I hate to say he's got a point. He doesn't. I don't think he. I hate to say it like that, but I do remember that XRP or Ripple has gone after and paid, put money behind ads and stuff like that to remove proof of work because of environmental concerns. So Ripple played dirty trying to get rid of competitors in that way. Also, I do remember in their initial defense of the SEC lawsuit when it first got brought up, they said they asked the judge to dismiss the case for policy reasons, not for legal reasons, but for policy reasons, because they said that Ripple is a U.S. company and Bitcoin and China and Ethereum are China run, and so it's in the best interest of the U.S. to let Ripple do well and regulate the Chinese coins. And I'm like, okay, you're dirty pieces of crap. Like, so I hate to semi agree with this maximalist, but I sort of do in that, like, Yeah, I don't think Ripple's a hero at all. I think that anyone should be. I think they should be allowed to legally do business. I think that anyone should be able to buy and sell their token without registering as securities exchange or anything. I believe all that, but I also don't like Ripple. That being said, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there because they're complaining about all this kind of stuff about playing dirty and all this kind of stuff. And this very next tweet from June 7th, which was last week. That was like yesterday was that first one. Last week, he posts a picture of Gary Gensler as Mr. Clean, cleaning up crypto. He says, Gary is finally cleaning up the shit coins. Bitcoin will destroy your models. Nothing's priced in. So he's celebrating the SEC enforcement, the government taking out competitors to Bitcoin. Then he complains, "Ooh, the Ripple people were going after us." So there's a ton of like hypocrisy. In my view, maybe I'm crazy, but my view is, I do think that I think people should be ideologically consistent here. I think that the government coming in and regulating crypto projects and harming some or others across the board is not good. Or if you believe it's across the board good, it should be across the board good. So I don't know. Is that a radical point of view?
No, I think I think it's that's right. You should have the same standard across. But obviously, in that case, it makes me there's that one thing with like oh, Bitcoin is not crypto, and then when that suits them, that's the case. And then when they talk about oh, crypto should be this and that, I was like oh yeah, and Bitcoin is part of it as a leader of it. So whatever's fits their narratives, they're just plugging that in to make sure that works. If it's I don't know if they're integrated into PayPal with Mastercard or whatever else, it's centralized solutions. But if it's good for the price for price pumping, then oh yeah, it's good. But if it's but detriment of being decentralized, but that's okay because you're pumping my bag, so I'm good. So
Yeah.
they're related to fiat really, as opposed to building a strong decentralized case where it might be worth a bit less now, but eventually it will be worth more because one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, no matter what we say. Uh, for example, as opposed to clearly focusing on that fiat price and making sure we adjust it. And I don't know if the Russian government says Bitcoin is good, it'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, he's right, like whatever. That whatever works to make it look good. That's what I find anyway from the different posts. They contradict each other, I think. So it's funny to see. It's funny and frustrating.
Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely frustrating to see like our best, you know, our people, so to speak, the crypto space, just kind of tearing each other apart just for a bigger piece of the pie. It
Hmm.
is kind of crazy, like in the multi-coin world, just the crypto general world. People tend to be a lot friendlier, right? As far as they're friendlier towards other projects. Like Ethereum people, there's some Ethereum maxis these days, which are getting it's getting annoying. But for the most part, they just do their thing. And then like if you go to just any coin, every coin has its own maxis, but they tend to be friendly towards the rest of crypto. And I think Litecoin kind of pioneered this attitude by being number two, the
Yeah.
best number two. That we're always number two. Although there's some Lightning maxis now who say that Bitcoin's useless, and I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd see the day. but it's just there's a couple. I think you can be a Bitcoin maxi and think all the other cryptos suck. I mean that happens. I think it's stupid, but that happens. You could be a BSV maxi. There's a lot of people like that just you know think that it's just a different flavor of Bitcoin maxi. I'm seeing some Bitcoin Cash maxis pop up now, especially now that
No.
Bitcoin Cash has activated cash tokens, and so now it can do smart contract type stuff like Ethereum style things. And so now it's just like, oh, everything else will die. I'm like, all right. But um, on
Yeah.
the overall, I don't think any project, even if you just combine Bitcoin and Ethereum together, I don't think that even they're big enough to be considered safe yet. I think we kind of need to stick together a little bit more, which doesn't mean we can't criticize. It doesn't mean we can't criticize e- projects we don't like as much or whatever, but I definitely think we should like stick together.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, Litecoin's doing pretty good in that regards. Yeah, Bitcoin Cash. I think it's the whole mentality, like stemming from the different forks. I think it like BSV as their style,
Mm-hmm.
BCH was a bit less, but I think now, as you say, they might start getting like that too. And BTC, obviously, it's known, so I think it's kind of the fact of being like all claiming to be the right Bitcoin probably that causes
Mm-hmm.
that, as opposed to like Litecoin that's a bit off to kind of the side or whatever that is proposing something like similar to Bitcoin, obviously, but that it's kind of more friendly. They're not attached to it as much as BCH and BSV in that sense, so they're not claiming to be to claim the name. Um, and I think now, even saying like, "Oh, BCH is Bitcoin, BSV is Bitcoin," it's kind of I'm almost like tired of seeing that too because it's like, yeah, whatever. Like we can just. I'm at the point to come to a conclusion that okay, BTC is Bitcoin, but it doesn't mean it works better. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean it's a great solution. Then, so you can look at other stuff because I think the market is has spoken, even if you don't like it. I should say, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have to come to a realization that's what that is. But now, what can you do now to improve? What are you doing good like for like the ecosystem like BSV? Are you doing like smart contracts, just data on chain? BCH, are you
Mm-hmm.
proposing payment solutions? Like what can you do now to propose a better solution than BTC? So it's all that narrative. I think now, oh, this and that. It's like, oh, XRP is Bitcoin. Like I'm seeing that sometimes. Like what?
Yeah, which is it's crazy. I had never, and maybe this I threw it a bonus tweet that I just saw that um, it's one of those like yay versus crying memes. First, yes, SEC ruled XRP isn't a security, although it didn't, but whatever for the Nance. Then the cries, XRP is still a shitcoin though. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, well, I've never found an XRP user. I never saw them. I
yeah.
don't know any apps or services that use them. Someone linked one time. I had an argument on the internet, as one does, and someone linked, oh, it's this thing, like five things you could do with it or something. I never tried them out myself. I opened the links and looked at them, but I don't really know if people are actually using the token. I mean, it has a lot of people say it's like a lot of like for a cross border like bank settlements and stuff like that. And there's always this talk of partnerships, but it's like I don't really know. Do you know if anyone? Do you know of anyone who actually uses XRP or?
No, a lot of people talk about it, and I think that's some that are related to CBDCs and bank projects and so on, and a bit of under the NFTs. I think they have some kind of a XRPL, like a ledger, like some. I think they have that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe they don't use it like as like payment. And to be honest, like I'm not saying like about the security or whatever else, but it probably works better than BTC, like on the speed of it. Like if you want to do a payment, you're at the cash register, like you need to pay. Obviously, you'll probably complete it faster with XRP, but then and now it's defined who will use it, who will take it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like solutions like Dash, Litecoin, and BCH that are probably the most common when it comes to like payments, BTC or Lightning. But I personally don't like using BTC and Lightning. Well, I kind of don't touch it. I don't know. Like
Yeah, it makes
I just
sense.
find like it's an off-chain kind of crappy solution. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe like people won't agree with me, and maybe they would ask for arguments. I don't know. I guess I could come up with arguments, but at the same time, I'm like. I could do something on chain. I want to use crypto. I'm just going to use Mastercard then. You know.
You know, one of the things with the XRP, I mean, I do enjoy that having XRP out there makes just sort of like having Nano out there to be doing something very different from what everyone else is doing. It does sort of challenge your base assumptions and makes you think about it, right? So, for example, one thing I like about something like Bitcoin or a proof of work coin or maybe a proof of stake coin, if it's well distributed enough, is that the supply is not controlled by a single entity or a few entities. And so, because Bitcoin's been around for like 15 years, basically, and because so many people have like lost their keys and there's been so many hacks and all that kind of stuff, and it hasn't been universally very valued or sure for a very long time. It just the coins are kind of everywhere. You know, they're you can kind of trust that it's a relatively decentralized supply. Of course, with El Salvador and Michael Saylor and all them and Satoshi's Horde and all that kind of reduces that. But so you get the decentralized supply, and then you got the is it run in a censorship resistant way? Is it structurally censorship resistant? And Bitcoin is, as long as you can afford the fees, the on-chain fees. XRP, I don't trust that it is because of the node validator thing, where anyone can run a validator, but the chain runs on whoever's on the list. There's like a list of approved validators, and every node has their own list of approved validators. And if the lists diverge too much, then it forks off and is like it's a different project. And so Ripple themselves maintains a list. And if you're basically not on Ripple's list, if you're not one of their validators, then no one else can really have you as a validator because they'll like fork off. So it's not a very strong decentralization kind of thing. It's kind of like, well, trust Ripple and their buddies is kind of the way it shakes out. And so from having that, and then also development is completely one company. Like no one else is building on Ripple, or maybe I'm sure people might be building other side things on it, kind of like people might be building stuff on Amazon AWS or whatever, but no one's.
Yeah.
But it's not like the core things being built. So from my perspective, like there's nothing specifically that Ripple offers, or XRP, whatever you want to call it, actually, because it used to be called both. There's nothing that it offers that I think is worthwhile, especially in a Bitcoin and beyond era, especially with all these other alternatives out there.
Yeah, that's right. I think they're proposing something, but it's mostly like it's more centralized, obviously, and they're tied in with banking solutions and cross-border payments and that sort of thing. So hopefully that they can find a niche in that aspect. But I think if you want to go a bit more, like do real like the crypto decentralized, look for security and find really like a alternative solution, then I think you got to look at different option. Maybe it could be a good supplement for some stuff, like it's cheap and for transactions and so on if people used it that way. But now I think it's similar probably to BTC. Like most people keep it as digital gold, so obviously I'm not referring to XRP there, but maybe they just hold it and hope for the best, and they can sell their bags at whatever price and make money. I think you get a lot of people that way too, so that's just unfortunate. But if you want to look for payment options, I think it's probably better to look at Litecoin, Dash, Zcash, Monero, those options rather than
Yeah, absolutely.
XRP. Yeah.
Yeah, so this might be a good time to point out, by the way, that well, first of all, I did have some as like a side. Maybe I'll be able to save that to the end. The whole talk about Surface and membership proofs. In the YouTube description, by the way, there's a link to the Odysee version of this, which I'm live streaming on right now, and I have a few people watching. So if you give you the choice of which platform to watch on, I mean, obviously the more, the one that actually runs on a decentralized blockchain, and supporting all that stuff is what I personally prefer. But the experience a lot of times, and then the network effect and all that is on YouTube. So there's that. But it is a good segue into this next post, which I don't know exactly what to make of it, but Odysee tweeted yesterday, "Rebirth coming soon," with a cow. So, first, what do you thing. I mean, what
Well,
what a deep philosophical point for to have poignant
I think
opinions
that
on. But yeah,
yeah,
what do you think of that?
well, it was with their token as well, right? That they're what was it called? Library tokens, like in
Mm-hmm.
front LBC. I think well,
Yeah.
LBC. Yeah, so I think they're I think they're probably using that because they know maybe they won't be considered a security as much, or I think they see a broader future now, and maybe that's going to clear up their case and help them. I think that's what that is, the rebirth. That means like unless they've prepared a different platforms, which I don't know, but or a revamp of that. But I think with their token, it might help them. Whatever happened to XRP will probably help LBC to continue and maybe like to come out of that hole and keep growing and so on. So I think that's probably that you know that I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I have no idea exactly where it's going to go with the token. I I honestly, it seems planned out, and um, Tom, who works for Odysee, posted a little cow picture and this cow thing, the rebirth. It seems to have been planned much before we knew there'd be some kind of a decision with clarity on the XRP situation. So I think this was always planned. And so the story with library, it was or still is for the next few weeks, I guess, a company that created the library blockchain, and the company it the company also built they had the distinction between it's a public decentralized blockchain, but a company primarily developed it and developed the products on top of it, like the clients and stuff. And they did the library desktop client, and then they also did something called library.tv, which was like just a website, like a YouTube competitor sort of thing that worked on
Mhm.
top of it. But it was the library company did all of this on top of the library blockchain. Now, at some point, they rebranded the website to Odysee, and at some point after that, a separate legal entity was created called Odysee, and with its own CEO and everything like that. And as far as I'm aware, a lot of funding for Odysee, like startup funding and everything, came from the library company, transferred all. So it's kind of basically they just spun off their like centralized front end apps as a completely different entity and just decided to focus on developing the blockchain. Now, I don't know how much of that is related to the SEC already starting to come after them, and they're like, well, we need to separate these things out and just say, look, we're just, to do whatever. The SEC definitely thought that because in the library case, they tried to come after the agreement that they reached with the SEC judgment was that they were going to pay some sort of a fine, which was I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it wasn't significant in the grand scheme of things. Just some like basic fine, and basically say all the money that we got from selling these securities, as the judge ruled that they were in this case, all the money we got to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of it completely, and all basically the entire company they built with this money they had to get rid of, and so as part of the agreement they're shutting down the company. Now, what the SEC tried to say too is, oh, by the way, Odysee is a successor. We got when Library shuffled money off to Odysee to save themselves from a lawsuit, but it's Odyssee's basically the same as Library. We need to go sue them too. And the judge said, nah, you can't do that. And so Odyssee's still there. And so I'm pretty sure like Odysee was always going to be the thing that stays around and keeps doing things, and it's like the legal entity that stays on top of the library blockchain. And so I would be very surprised. Well, I don't know if very is the right word, but I would definitely be surprised if Odysee switched blockchains, because there's so many pieces of content, so many claims, like millions of users and all that kind of stuff on the actual blockchain, and to just be like, hey, guess what? We're going to do a thing where everything gets ported and copied over to a separate blockchain. I really don't think that would happen. Just think they're going to keep on doing it. But I think that Odysee is now, because they started out largely using the LBC token to do a lot of things. They started out, and then over time they just transitioned to now that it's basically a fiat site. It's like a Rumble or something like that, like one of these YouTube alternatives that just uses fiat for memberships and has ads on it and other things like that. And while still uploading everything to the library blockchain and keeping it that way. So I think they're going to continue doing that. I just think that they might have found like a new angle for monetization of things like that or something. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I did ask Tom, I'm like, what's the deal? He's like, I can't tell you. I'm like,
Yeah,
we'll find out soon enough. But either way, congratulations to Odysee on your rebirth. I hope that all the library people who now don't have jobs and stuff because they can't do that, I hope they go somewhere good. And I hope that there's some sort of another entity, possibly a DAO, that runs the library blockchain's development now, that can actually keep on developing it so it keeps on working out. And yeah, that's kind of where I leave that.
Yeah, makes total sense. We'll have to see. Obviously, with everything in crypto, they like to do a bit of marketing and do some hype. So obviously, they won't be talking about the details of it until we actually know about it. But yeah, I'm thinking the rest of summer should be fairly positive. I think for like crypto, and then until the fall where we might see more action. If there's an appeal for XRP or more stuff with politics, it seems we might be in the middle of a break right now, but
Yeah.
it probably won't take that long until craziness hits the fan again.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially because with this whole Twitter thing was kind of like social media, because Odysee has two problems, three problems, or had three problems. One, the company did like a illegal securities offering, as was ruled. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with what they did, and so they had to deal with that. Two, crypto is just uncertain and problematic in the U.S. right now. It's not the only, like Ionia just shut down or is shutting down all their crypto services, and that's really dicey and unfortunate. So the U.S. is not good in that regard. But then the third thing is the whole value proposition of Odysee, other than, creators get more freedom to do stuff and can monetize better. The entire thing is stuff that YouTube banned and censored can be found here within reason. That's kind of the entire point of a decentralized content platform. And that's another thing the government hates. Now, as we saw with the Twitter files, the government was investing tons of money and effort into influencing social media companies to basically censor certain narratives. And they also, of course, as Snowden revealed, even if the government doesn't get your data, these companies do get your data, and then they sell it and the government buys it. So even if it's illegal for the government to have this, to collect this data, to spy on you, Google spies on you and the government buys it. So there we go. Again, another case of like quasi-fascism right there. And so Twitter kind of reversed the trend by like blowing the whistle on all this when Elon bought it, and reversing a ton of bans and censorship and all that kind of stuff. Recently, Twitter's been doing some questionable things. Some people have been censored for hate speech or whatever, stuff like that. So there's some cause for concern that Twitter might be kind of swinging back the other way. But I guess the point is, if Odysee becomes successful, I think it is successful now, but I think if it becomes majorly successful, then we'll see. Like, we'll see what the government tries to do then. I think they're going to try to do some nonsense. So
Oh yeah, probably.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Real quick before we wrap up, just there's some people who are commenting in the
Yeah.
freebie chat. I thought I'd throw people some freebies to be generous on that. But basically, let's see. So Nyon or Nyon or whoever it is was basically commenting on membership proofs in privacy, zero knowledge privacy on different kind of things. So the big thing, what are your thoughts on full membership proofs coming to Monero with Seraphis? So this is privacy coin in the weeds type stuff, but membership proofs, basically what that means is the actual privacy on the chain, zero knowledge privacy on chain, like the way Zcash works. Where if you look at a Zcash block explorer and I send a shielded to a shielded transaction, there's nothing. It just shows up with nothing. Whereas if you look at the same type of transaction for a Monero transaction, it shows it went to all these different spots. One of them is the real spot. Most of them are decoys. But so Monero is moving to, they're basically taking Zcash tech and using it in the near future, I guess. So on the whole, like if I'm just like looking at the whole thing, I think that's a very good thing because I think that's the best tech out there for privacy because it's leaks as little data as possible. Decoy models do leak a lot of data, even though they obfuscate them. The more data is available, the easier it is for like AIs and stuff to start combing through, finding patterns and breaking things. Whereas if it's just not there, it's a lot better. So I think as a whole, it's good. It's also good because it sort of, I think it's good for Zcash in a certain way because that means that the number one privacy coin out there, let's be honest, that's what people consider Monero to be, is the most popular and most looked at coin or project in crypto that enhances user privacy. And so for that to be adopting Zcash's tech is a very good endorsement for Zcash. Now, I think it's also very good it's mostly positive for Monero. I think it's almost entirely positive because their privacy tech is getting better and they've had so many exploits over the years in their decoy model. And they've done a really good job trying to play whack-a-mole and like hit all those like problems. But now at some point you have to migrate to a system that works better. And I think that they're doing this. It to a certain extent, I think it could give Monero an even greater advantage over Zcash because now that Zcash had like the clearly better privacy that Zcash always had. If it's in Monero too, but Monero has the network effect and has always on and all these other kinds of things that people like, now it may be a stronger case that you only need Monero. Except if you start adopting Zcash tech, now you kind of need Zcash to stay around in at least some capacity so you can keep on taking it as they improve the tech later. So on the whole, I think it's a good thing. And I think that most projects should do something like this use some sort of zero knowledge based privacy on the whole. There's a lot of nuance to that. Let's see what else he's said about will Firo get a full membership proof? So Firo went for a different approach. Firo used to be called Zcoin, by the way, in case people forgot. Where they have a very similar kind of a thing, but every single time you send a transaction through Lelantus Spark, I guess that's their upcoming privacy model, the coin gets destroyed and then gets minted from nothing. So it's all transparent, but there's no coin history. So because you don't have to do the shielded to shielded, it's technically, I guess, less complicated. Fewer things can go wrong with it. But the effect is kind of the same in that anytime I send you a coin, your address just shows, oh, received. And then when you send it, oh, you got a receive. But there's no where it came from or anything like that. And it's not like a... Kind of like if you use a coin join, such as what Dash has every single time, except with that, it just confusing where it came from. Where it's like, it came from all those places. I can't tell where it came from. But in this case, there isn't any data on where it came from. So I think it's good to have a separate model there with Firo like that, especially because, I mean, it gives a little bit more supply certainty as well. The problem with something that's entirely like Monero or Zcash is that if there's no transparent coins, although Zcash has transparent coins right now, then there could be a massive inflation bug and you wouldn't have caught it because it's all private. And that's one of the big things that I don't think every coin should do L1 zero knowledge privacy like this, as long as there's a possibility for an inflation bug. We'll see. And so we're talking about, BCH with zero knowledge proof opcodes or whatever like that. The thing with those opcodes is, or the thing is with like the data layer kind of stuff. First of all, the Railgun contract, I'm a big fan of the Railgun people. They're really smart and great people. The Railgun contract on Ethereum, on Polygon, on Avalanche, on any EVM compatible chain, basically, if you run it through the Railgun contract, you have Zcash level privacy. It's like building a Zcash shielded pool on whatever smart contract chain you can. You can do this today with like the Railway wallet. I think it's railway.xyz or something is how you do it. But basically you just do all your Ethereum or whatever the hell else through that, and then you get Zcash level privacy for smart contracts and all that kind of stuff. So I just think it's going to be really easy for data stuff to just start using that. I think the future is EVM compatible, for better or for worse. I think there's just so much network effect that you're not going to be like, we're going to build our smart contract system completely from scratch and all the contracts will be all very different. I don't know how that's going to work, Bitcoin Cash, like especially with the UTXO model, building cash tokens as a UTXO model. I mean, I think that's great that they're trying something different. I just also think there's a massive amount of work to be done for that to catch up. But anyway, I guess my point is there's already privacy solutions out there you can just strap on like that. And so for something like Dash that's very, I guess soon going to have a second data layer chain, if something like that can get EVM compatible smart contract functionality, that's probably the best way of doing like the super advanced privacy, where now it's just like where you don't have to risk, especially because in a DAO, if there's an inflation bug, someone can just take over the whole network and start voting funding proposals or vote to like add mandatory KYC to everything, and it's a near unanimous DAO vote, and everyone's like, oh, what happened? It's because there was an inflation bug no one detected. So I think that stuff is very important to be transparent on layer one for that reason. But if you have a second, you could have like a privacy side chain on Dash, or just run that through the contract, and then there you go, if you want like super private stuff. All right, any final thoughts or anything before we wrap this thing up?
No, I think a lot of things maybe it'll be a quiet summer, like I mentioned. It might be a bit of rather calm time this summer based on vacations, even though we got like big news come in still. But I think there's still a lot of uncertainties, like when it comes to regulatory frameworks, exchanges, different tokens, different blockchains, NFTs. So it'd be interesting to see, but I think we're not out of the woods yet. So let's see what happens. And I'm sure they'll be back again with other nonsense. So we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, it's shill o'clock. What are you gonna shill?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm getting better at this anyway. So follow me on Twitter mostly, and I created a Threads account, but not that you guys are on that platform yet. But anyway, I just created an account and I just post some random stuff here and there. So Twitter is at SYL Cloutier, so Syl Cloutier. Anyway, I'm tagged in the video there, so you can follow me through that. And I'm doing a video Twitter video challenge this month. So I'm at day I think 11 or maybe 12 today. So doing like a video daily. I'm not necessarily talking about crypto, but I've been covering like LinkedIn and helping you to do marketing stuff, a bunch of random different things. So yeah, follow me there, and then ask me questions, and maybe that might be the next topic of my video. I'm kind of leaving it like open for ideas there. So if you got an idea for a specific video you'd like, maybe I'll cover it for a couple minutes and such. So yeah, follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. I just put in the live chat of both the Twitter
Yeah,
handle.
thanks.
Yeah, the thing is, one thing I should add about one thing I should add about Twitter is Twitter started to implement revenue sharing for certain creators that get, I think it's over 2 million impressions per month or something like that. And so,
Probably like Tucker Carlson and those guys.
yeah, and some people have been advertising some pretty good numbers. Well, like, so I just got, I mean, if you look at my feed at the Desert Links, I did a couple successful tweets in the last couple days. And so if I get the kind of engagement I've gotten the last couple days, every single day I would qualify. But it was kind of a fluke. I'm kind of at, I'm at like 15 or 20% of that threshold. You know, I'm like a little over. I'm not, all right. I have like 28-day period. I have 400 or 340,000 impressions. You know, just whatever. I'm leaking my analytics. No one cares. But I'll get there. Maybe I'll start getting paid by the end of the year. I think it should be easy to start getting paid on that. And so, what I have to say about that, which this is totally not crypto related necessarily, but there is a way of doing this to where it works. There's a way to tweet to get the algorithm to like make things work and stuff. You can study how to win on that, and you can study how to make it work. And so, I guess if you're in crypto and you want to promote good things, you see all these dumb like maxi influencers posting stupid shit all the time, and you're like, nah, I don't want it. Like I want the good stuff to be out. It's like there's a playbook to do that.
They'll probably get revenue sharing first though, because that's what people want. It's like, oh yeah, we're promoting like he's pumping my bag, so let's follow him and let's reinforce what I think.
Yeah. Well, so if you want you should get good at Twitter if you want what you do to be out there. I mean, you do provide a lot of value. Might as well get paid for it. So,
Yeah.
that's just some idea. Yeah, let's wrap this thing up. Oh, one last thing, I guess. I'm going to be at ZCon in Barcelona in a couple weeks, and so
Nice.
I'm going to be there. I'm not going to say who else is going to be there because they're all very privacy conscious. Me, not so much. I love privacy when I can take it, but I also like a public person, whatever. So if you're going to be there, please give me a shout out. Oh, the last thing on Twitter though, follow me on Twitter, please, at the Desert Links, specifically because I have 9,991 followers. I need 9 more to hit that mythical 10K barrier, and then people will actually take my opinion seriously. So that's what it is. All right. Thanks for being on, Sylvain. It was a good time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week, and then the week after that will be ZCon. So I might have to not have a podcast that week. We'll see. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Remember, taxation is theft. Your phone is spying on you, and live on crypto before it's too late. Bye-bye.